Hello, and welcome to the final call of the end of summer detox together. I hope this has been a beautiful experience for everybody. Thanks for sticking to it and doing such a beautiful thing for your body and your mind and your spirit. So I have a something to share with you today, a little presentation about creating lasting habit change and how we go about that on a day-to-day basis to just continue to strengthen those muscles of the mind and really support the body with the ongoing habit change that we are starting to create here. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Do, 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 do. Here we are. Everybody see that? Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to present. And here we go. So I am somebody who struggled with habit change a lot throughout my life. I have gone down some questionable roads and used to drink a lot of alcohol and all the things, all the fun things that I just wanted to dive in and have a good time in my life. And it really was hard for me to maintain any kind of positive routine for myself. So, since I got certified as a health and life coach, I've been working on this with my own somatic body. And then once I dove into the regenerative side of things and started cleaning out my body, it became so much easier to start integrating these tools and these habits on such a deeper level. So this work has changed my life, and now I do have a practice that I do almost every day, close to every day now, where I am giving my body the attention that it needs. I'm giving my mind the pause and the attention that it needs in order for me to thrive on a day-to-day basis. And what does that look like, and how can we build it? So, what does that even mean to create lasting habits? So, one of the biggest tools that I have used is stacking habits together, and also focusing on what I don't want to be experiencing anymore. When I come back to that part of my brain where I'm like, you know, I just want to do that thing that I know that isn't good for me, but I want to indulge. So, when we stack habits, we get to integrate a new habit by attaching it to an already existing habit. So, for instance, if you are struggling to be consistent with taking a supplement or, maybe even flossing your teeth or something like that, stack it on something else that's already in place. So, you do this, you have breakfast first and then you take your supplement, or you're brushing your teeth and then you floss your teeth. So the more that you can stack these habits on top of each other, if you are an exerciser and you go to the gym and then you come home and take a shower, maybe you wedge a habit in between those two things where you're like, okay, these two things are set in place and maybe I can insert this other thing right there. And we can start small. We don't want to overwhelm the system at all. You want to focus on building one habit at a time. And it usually takes about like 21 days to build a habit, from what I've heard. But that's not that long of a time. So if you can really focus on integrating something into your daily schedule, just piece by piece, and attaching it to something else that you know you're going to do, and maybe putting up some post-its or something, some little reminders of being like, oh, so when I do this thing, it's going with this thing. Like if the teeth brushing thing, if you're taking your supplement right after brushing your teeth, maybe you put that supplement bottle right by your toothbrush so that for the first week, like it's just there in your sight line. You're not going to miss it. And that tool is going to be integrated because of that. When we're working to eliminate an old habit, I love to just think about the sensations in my body after I do it that I don't want to be experiencing anymore, or the feelings, like how did that actually make me feel after the fact? And then creating some kind of an anchor to that where you really remind yourself of what you don't want to be experiencing anymore. If anybody has questions about stacking habits, please let me know. We could talk about this all day long. There's a whole book about it. So envisioning and anchoring. So building fresh neural pathways. What does that mean? The way that we do this is by literally imagining what you want to be experiencing every day like it's already happened. So actually feeling the joy, the elation of, maybe you have a new client, or, if you're not an entrepreneur, maybe you got that car that you really want, um, maybe your health has peaked to its optimal level and you feel so good in your body, and just really envisioning what that would feel like. Is there a lightness? Is there a brightness? Are you laughing? Are there tears of joy flowing down your face? And really using your imagination to activate yourself. And we underestimate this power all the time. But if you think about biting into a lemon, then we'll start salivating. And that's how powerful our imagination can be. We actually have a physical response to what is going on in our minds. So when we are doing this, we can start using anchors to remind us to do these things and to envision these things. And an anchor can be a thing, like maybe it's a necklace, maybe it's your favorite painting, maybe it's a photo of something. It could be a vision board. You can build yourself a vision board to remind yourself on a day-to-day basis what you want to be experiencing and what you're moving towards. And just having that visual to repetitively remind yourself of where you're going. This could also be a touch or a movement, like I've used just like a soft touch on my face or a pulling of the ear, to remind myself of where I'm going and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Or a song or a sound, if you want to make a noise, like a certain type of, like maybe a little noise that nobody's really noticing, but it's something to remind you of why you're standing up for yourself and doing things differently in your life. So curating your reality. As I was just saying, our senses hold the keys to the kingdom. So some tools that you can use are bilateral stimulation. So even putting on headphones and listening to bilateral stimulating music can change the brain waves in your brain, which open up the potential for actually thinking and doing things in a different way, or even releasing deep trauma. Tuning into your senses while you're in your imagination and you're crafting this new vision of what you want to be experiencing, then turn to your senses as far as like, what are you tasting in the moment? What do you feel? Can you feel like the sun or the breeze on your face? Can you feel those tears of joy streaming down your face, that relief you finally arrived? What kind of what does it feel like in your chest? Like, do you feel any jubilation bubbling up? Are there sensations on your arms? I just, all of the senses, activate them within the imagination to make that more real for yourself. And this is how people manifest all the time. And hugely successful humans in life, in all different levels of business, have used these techniques. And they don't talk about them so much, because some of them, there's skeptics out there, but they are totally meditating, visualizing on a day-to-day basis to call in what they want. So certain frequencies can help you fine tune yourself as well, like listening to certain frequencies, sound bathing, tuning yourself and your nervous system to the frequency that you want to be experiencing can change so much for you. And especially when you have some trauma that's built up in the system you need to release, this is a huge way to go about it with the bilateral stimulation. If you've ever if you're that person that's going through something like that, brain spotting, I would say, is one of the strongest tools that I found out there to move through trauma, as well as EMDR, because that stuff can really get stuck in our fascia and hold us back from actually grasping and attaining what we truly want, whether it's physical or mental. So rewiring, the body is always listening to you, too. Our cells think what your self thinks, and your self thinks what your cells think. So we're doing a dance here. It goes both ways. And the words that you speak to yourself really change everything. So it's so important to keep negating your negative thoughts and being like, you know what? Okay, yes, I hear you, little inner critic, but I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to let you lead the show. You get to sit in the back seat and watch me succeed. Um, and I'm going to talk more about that in a second. Yeah, flipping it on its head as far as like if you have a thought that's negative, work with where you're at, because you don't want to feel like you're lying to yourself, but make it approachable for your mind. So if you say like, oh, I'm so bad at that, or like, I'm like, that's never going to happen, or I'm not worthy of that, use words like perhaps, or I could do that, or maybe it's possible, or I'm open to that happening, or it could be possible, within the realm of the world that that could happen, or I'm willing to make the change. I'm willing to be open to things being different. And this is where you can start flipping things on their head and literally rewiring your brain, because the more that you do this, the easier it is going to be to have positive thoughts on a day-to-day basis about yourself. And I used to have so much negative talk to myself. And since I started this practice, it's almost all gone. And when she does pop up, my little inner critic, I'm like, I hear you. I know like you were with my old self, and that's great. You were helpful back in the day on some level. You were trying to protect me or whatever you're doing, but I don't need you right now. I've got these other wonderful things going on, and we're moving forwards, not backwards. So she no longer gets to run the show. And remember that rewiring the brain and creating habits, it's just like building a muscle. So even if you fall off track one day, it's no big deal. Just jump back on track and keep practicing, keep the repetition going. Practice, repetition, don't give up. Just keep doing it and it will happen. The other thing that you can start doing to against your negative critic, to fight the good fight for yourself, is gathering evidence against your negative critic. So really, for example, I would have a thought where I was like, oh my God, that did not go well. I feel like I failed at that. It just was shitty. Sorry for my French. And then I'd be like, oh, but Ilsa, look at what you did say, and look at what that feedback that somebody gave you, and look like you got out of bed this morning too and you did X, Y, and Z for yourself. You washed your face and you took a shower and you put good foods in your body. And the more that we can gather positive evidence against our self-critic, the more that they are going to have less and less power. And if you actually start a positivity journal, in the sense of an accomplishments journal, I should say, where every time that you accomplish something or you get some good feedback or something, and it can be the simplest things, like literally, I didn't stay in my pajamas today. I got dressed and I made myself a good meal. Like these little things count because not everybody does them. And then at the end of the day, when you see all of the things that you did for yourself, and then if you start adding on the things that you actually really want to be doing for yourself, and you're like, oh my God, I did that habit today that I've been trying to integrate, and I actually did it. And it starts feeling more and more exciting to see all the things that you're doing for yourself and succeeding at, instead of focusing on the negative. So gathering this positive evidence can be so helpful at like bringing all parts of you on board, because we all have different parts of us that frequently like to speak up and be like, hey, maybe that's not the way to do things, or hey, remember when that terrible thing happened? Don't do it that way. Which again, these parts of us are there because we've had experiences in the past that have brought them up and brought them out. And they're there for our best good as far as protecting us, but they don't always know what's best for us, And our higher self can come in, the one that wants to grow, the one that wants the change, the one that wants the new experience in their body, and actually start building this evidence, building this case against those naysayers. And it starts getting easier and easier to do too. It starts getting exciting. So the first 15 minutes after waking up is your spongiest, which means this is when your brain is just coming alive and it's able to absorb so much right there and it's able to be open to more change. So what you do first thing when you wake up in the morning is almost like the most important thing of your day. So if you wake up and you even spend 5 minutes just focusing on positive thoughts or doing a little meditation or stretching, like becoming present with yourself, doing a little breath work or something, that is all you need to calibrate yourself for the frequency that you want to have during the day. If you wake up and you start scrolling and like, or you have an argument or something, you start texting people, being like, oh God, I have so many things to do, you're already setting yourself up to be on a track where you're just going to be frustrated all day long or overwhelmed all day long. So that first like 5 to 15 minutes, if you take it and you just make that you time, I feel like that is such a big game changer as far as rewiring and creating that lasting change as far as shifting the way that you're showing up in your day. And that will lead into a cascade of beautiful things that can happen from there. So negotiating with all the consciousnesses. So we think about the conscious and the subconscious all the time, but we don't really think about the superconscious. And the superconscious is the higher self. It's the intuition, and we all have intuition, and our intuition knows what's best for us, and we don't always want to trust it, but it's like that gut knowing that I don't know if any of you have ever had the experience of just having that feeling where you're like, I know this is what I need to do. And I feel like we've all had that at least one time in our life. Or it can be like one of the more obvious ones is like, oh, I know I'm in danger right now. Like that's not like this is kind of scary and intuitively I know I should exit this situation. That's your intuition, that's your superconscious as well as your fight or flight. But it comes into play where like you're like maybe you're dealing with somebody that you're not quite sure about and then you're like, yeah, I'm just thinking maybe that's not the one for me, or maybe that's not a relationship I want to have. That's when the intuition comes into play. And the more that we can talk to that super conscious self, the more in tune that we will be, and the more that we can succeed in actually creating and curating the experience that we want to be having on a day-to-day basis. And again, doing the things that we want to do as far as creating that lasting habit change. So just 5 minutes a day can change your life. Meditation is phenomenal. I have not been a good meditator for the majority of my life, and I've wanted to do it. I've been like, I'm going to do this because I know it's good for me. And it's really about finding the right meditation for you, I think. I recently started doing Joe Dispenza's meditations, and I can't stop because they make me feel so good. And the way that he leads me in it disengages my brain from the other world, and all of a sudden I am in the sweet spot. I am present with my body. Sometimes he uses a little bit of breath in there too, so I'm not just like trying to clear my mind, but I'm focusing on being present with myself, and then he leads me into envisioning my future self, which I think we should do every single day because it's medicinal for the soul as far as again cultivating what we want in our lives. Post-its are very helpful too, just reminders. Remind yourself of what you're doing. Why are you doing this? What's your big why? As far as why do you want a healthier body? Do you want to show up for your family more? Do you want more energy so that you can run marathons? Do you want to make $1 million and go on crazy vacations and like buy your family a house? Like, you know, whatever. The world is your oyster, but remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing and why you're integrating these habits as you go. Journaling can be really helpful for brain dumps, especially when you're frustrated, or also journaling in the positive way of things, of envisioning, taking that envisioning to the next level and really writing it out moment by moment. And then using those anchors like the touch or the movement or the song or whatever you need to, again, just bring yourself back on track consistently. We need reminders. So when we hit a wall, this has happened to me so many times, we hit a wall and we're just like, nope, I don't want to do that thing today. That habit can, screw that habit. I don't need it. Sometimes we have these moments and focus on what you have accomplished rather than what you're not doing at that point in time. I think it's so important when we hit a wall to acknowledge that, like, we're in a state of overwhelm, whatever's happening is happening. We need to slow down at these moments and really listen to ourselves. And it's okay that you don't do the X, Y, and Z today. Maybe you actually need a rest day. Don't push if you can. I know sometimes we have to go to work, we have to do these things, but find little ways to maybe nurture yourself in these moments instead of being hard on yourself. Because if you refocus on that, all of a sudden, the shame based thoughts and those kinds of things of like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not like succeeding at what I wanted to succeed, I broke my consistency. It's okay. You can always hop back on track tomorrow. And the more gentler you are with yourself, the easier it's going to be to get back on track. So the more that we beat ourselves up about something, the harder it is to like rebuild the muscle, from what I have experienced at least. So give yourself rest and integrate stress management activities as much as you can so that you don't hit the wall. So here are some stress management tools that I've laid out here. So breath work is phenomenal. It's a game changer. It will change your life, whether that's what you're going for or not. It will elevate your mind, body, and soul. So any kind of breath work, there's so many different ways to go about it, will be helpful. But timing, thinking about consistency as well, as far as like breath work in the morning is really helpful, or maybe even at the end of the day if you're doing something really restful, you're trying to get yourself to sleep. Doing the belly, chest, brain, so really bringing energy up to the higher level. So breathing into the belly, breathing into the chest, breathing into the brain, holding it for a second, and then actively blowing out as if you're like blowing into a balloon or something, pursing the lips a little bit. And I like to imagine like all of this like negative energy just flowing out of me and down into the earth when I exhale. And doing 3 or 4 of those, can really change your energy in the moment. And the box breath I really love too. So inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding for 4. And continuing that pattern can be very soothing. I would do this one 3 to 5 times minimally as well for the box breath, but it's a way to easily reset the system in a pretty short period of time. So even if you're at, I mean, be careful with breath work when you're driving, but sometimes if I'm at a long stoplight or I'm stuck in traffic or something, doing like a quick set of a couple box breaths can really calm me down and just bring me back to center. Exercise and movement is always helpful. I know everybody knows this, but think about having your tea time. I love this acronym because it should be tangible. It should be enjoyable, not it doesn't have to be like crazy cardio torture land. It should be approachable, so do something doable within your day. Don't set your sights too high that you're not going to do it, and accessible. So if you're like, I'm going to hike a mountain today, and then you find all these obstacles in your way as far as actually getting to the mountain and doing that thing, like make it really easy for yourself. Maybe it's as simple as like, I'm just going to stretch my legs today. I'm going to sit down on the floor and stretch my legs. That could be an enjoyable, approachable, accessible, tangible thing to do. That could be your tea time for one day. And even just a little integration of this on a day-to-day basis, no matter what level you're at, is going to be helpful for your stress management. Learning something new is also a great way to de-stress because when our brain is learning, it can't focus on all those worries and it steps you out of fight or flight and into creativity. So if you're really stressed out, actually, I know it's hard in the moment where you're like, the last thing I want to do is like learn something new right now, but it could actually be really nurturing and helpful for you. And interrupting the noise. So when our brain gets really loud, and like if we're having some deep anxiety or something like that that's intense and it's taking us over, and you can't quite break out of it. I mean, just focusing on your breath is one thing. Sometimes that's not enough though. So holding ice cubes in your hands can actually break a panic attack. Um, Focusing on your fingers and doing the calm palm too is really useful. So the finger focus, you can hold your fingers in alignment so they're right in front of each other in line with your eyes. Then you're going to look at your front finger and then you're going to focus on your far finger. And then you're going to look at your front finger and then you're looking to look at your far finger. And you can add breath to this. So you can inhale looking at your front finger, and you're going to exhale looking at your far finger. And you can inhale looking at your front finger, and exhale looking at your far finger. You can also count down from 10. So you would look at your front finger 1, and your far finger 2, your front finger 3, your far finger 4, and so on and so forth. Count down from 10. This is distracting your brain. It's engaging a couple of things at once so that you can't think about like whatever you're stressing about. The calm palm is also an amazing one. So I hold my palm in front of my face. You're going to take a fingertip. You're going to start at the base of the hand right here. And you're going to draw just a very gentle, as if like you were stroking like a tiny little lizard or something like so small and fluffy, like a little baby mouse or something. You just want to tickle yourself almost. So you're dragging the finger up to the top and then you're going to trace up and down. But as you go, you're also breathing and counting. So I'm going to count 1 and inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you do this a couple times, sometimes even once is enough. If you do this a couple times, it's really soothing on the system. Again, you're engaging multiple senses at a time. So you're distracting yourself out of the noise and into the present moment. And this is great for kiddos too. It's great results with kids who are high strung or upset. If you can get them into having fun with the calm palm, it can be a game changer. So, last but not least, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but supporting and repairing the gut biome is really great for your stress management and nurturing the adrenal glands. So, our gut brain axis, our gut talks to our brain. Our gut talks to the hypothalamus gland, which talks to our pituitary gland. She's the master hormonal gland, and she gets to boss around all the other glands and say, hey, adrenals, make more of this. Hey, thyroid, make less of that, and so on and so forth. So to restore balance in the body, we want that gut biome in really good condition. The gut biome is the root of our gut injury, I should say, is the root of depression and anxiety in life in general. So if you're struggling with that on a regular basis and it seems to be taken over, let's nurture those gut junctions, those tight junctions in the gut lining and get them healed. And the adrenal glands regulate our cortisol levels, the stress hormone. So even if you've gone on a regenerative journey already and you still are feeling stressed out frequently, I would get some herbs for your adrenals or introduce the Be Energetic from Pirium, or if you haven't already, or the White American Ginseng. That's also really good adrenal support, or some other kind of adrenal restorative tincture. Because that's going to change everything. When I was in deep detox and I added in an adrenal restorative, it was like a breath of fresh air. I didn't even know how stressed out I was before. So don't ignore those lovely little adrenals. They're little caps for our kidneys too. So when the adrenals are struggling, then the kidneys can't filter well enough, or as well as they could if they were doing well. So you can create the habits and the life that you truly desire. We are all capable of mastering habit change. We are all capable of creating radical beauty in our lives. And, even if you have experienced the worst aspects of life and you don't see any possibility for change, I know it can happen because I've done it myself and I've seen so many others do it themselves. I mean, one of my favorite mentors, she went from complete scarcity, and paycheck to paycheck, struggling to survive, to now being a self-made millionaire, and we hear these stories all the time. They seem like so far off, but they're not that far off. It just takes dedication and self love as well, self appreciation, and moment to moment as you go through your days. Don't cheat yourself out of acknowledging what you are doing on a moment to moment and day to day basis. So I hope this was helpful. I wish you all the very best. Thank you for joining us again on this wonderful regenerative journey. And please reach out to whoever invited you into the container and get some guidance as far as like what best next steps might be for you. As far as there's always something that we can do to support the body, to continue to thrive and to reach even the next level and the next level and the next level. Because as I've gone through my own journey, what I've realized that there's no end of the road, like you can keep feeling more vibrant, you can keep feeling better and better, you can keep having more and more energy. And some people don't want to keep going, some people just want to do something one and done and then maybe do a little maintenance a couple times a year. And that's totally cool too. But there's so many toxins and things getting thrown at us from every which way nowadays. I do encourage you to just have a discussion about how best you might be able to maintain this new baseline, because we've made huge change. You just did 90 days, and congrats on that. I love you all, and I'm going to leave it at that. And I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful evening doing whatever you do.